Why avoidants are addicted to a partner who acts like they're nothing. Psychology tells us that avoidant attachment is not just a behavior but a psychological structure built from childhood experiences. On the surface, these people appear calm, independent and in control, but inside they live with one constant fear. If I show my needs, I'll be rejected again. And this creates a strange paradox. Avoidants want love, yet they are often drawn to partners who ignore them, who behave in ways that say, "You mean nothing to me." Most people wonder, why would anyone chase someone who doesn't value them? But psychology shows us that for avoidants this behavior holds a powerful pull, because it mirrors the same familiar pain their nervous system has always known. This isn't just attraction, it's addiction. When a partner stays indifferent, an inner challenge awakens in the avoidant. If I can win their love, maybe I can finally rewrite my old story. And that thought keeps pulling them back again and again, until they become bound to the very person who gives them coldness. Now the real question is, why does this happen? What kind of partner feels most magnetic to an avoidant, and which qualities trigger this pull again and again? That's why in this video we'll break it down in 3 clear steps. First, the profile of the ignoring partner. Second, the specific qualities that trigger avoidance. And finally, how those very traits turn into an addictive bond. And if you're watching this, it already means you're on the path of awareness. Thank you for taking this time for yourself. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next part reaches you as well. So let's move forward and uncover why avoidants become addicted to the partner who acts like they're nothing. Partner profile are 7 odd words. To understand why avoidants become addicted, we first need to look closely at the kind of partner they often choose, the one who acts like they don't care. This partner is not necessarily cruel or manipulative. In many cases, they simply show up as emotionally unavailable. They may be present physically, but their energy feels distant. They rarely express affection directly, and when they do, it is inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, leaving the avoidant guessing. From the outside, this person often appears calm, detached, or even indifferent. They don't chase, they don't reassure, and they don't make constant efforts to close the emotional gap. In fact, their silence or withdrawal can feel like rejection to most people. But to an avoidant, that exact quality feels strangely magnetic. Why? Because it mirrors the old wounds they carry. This ignoring partner often holds a few recognizable traits. They keep their emotions guarded, rarely letting others in. They send mixed signals, sometimes engaging, other times disappearing. They may minimize or dismiss deeper conversations about love, intimacy, or needs. And most importantly, they behave in ways that make the avoidant feel like they're not a priority. Ironically, this lack of reassurance doesn't push the avoidant away, it pulls them in deeper. The avoidant's nervous system mistakes this distance as familiar territory. Their subconscious whispers, "This feels like home, this is what love is supposed to be." So instead of choosing the partner who offers steady affection, avoidants become drawn to the one who acts detached. This partner's silence, their inconsistency, their very indifference becomes the stage on which the avoidance addiction begins. Now that we've looked at the specific qualities that trigger the avoidant the most, these are the behaviors that make them feel unimportant, and it's that very feeling that pulls them in even deeper. Silence. Silence may look like a simple behavior, but for avoidants, it becomes one of the most powerful triggers. When a partner suddenly stops responding, doesn't reply to a call or a message, or simply withdraws, most people interpret it as needing space. But for the avoidant, silence carries a much deeper meaning. In childhood, many avoidants repeatedly experienced moments when their needs were met with no response. When they cried out for comfort but received nothing in return, their nervous system learned a painful lesson. Silence means I don't matter. That lesson doesn't just disappear with age. It stays wired in their body, waiting to be reactivated. So, when an avoidant encounters silence in a relationship today, it's not just a pause, it reopens the door to that early wound. Their inner voice starts whispering, maybe I did something wrong, maybe they're about to leave, maybe I was never important in the first place. Here lies the paradox. Instead of pushing them away, silence often pulls them in even deeper. Why? Because in their mind, breaking through the silence becomes a challenge. If I can make this person respond, if I can get them to speak again, that will prove I am worthy of love. And so they chase the very behavior that hurts them. For avoidants, silence can be more painful than outright rejection. Rejection, at least, gives them an answer. But silence is an empty void, a void that echoes the emptiness they've carried inside since childhood. And every time they try to fill that void, they tighten the bond with the one who created it. This is why silence is not just a lack of words. For an avoidant, it is the loudest signal of all. It doesn't just remind them of the past, it traps them in it. Have you ever felt this quality in a relationship? Has a partner's silence ever made you restless inside, or strangely, pulled you even closer to them? Indifference may look like nothing, but to an avoidant it feels like everything. When a partner acts as though they don't care, shrugging off emotions, ignoring gestures of closeness, or showing no reaction, it stirs something powerful inside the avoidant. On the surface, indifference communicates, "You don't matter to me." Most people would take this as a red flag and pull away, but for an avoidant this coldness doesn't just feel familiar, it feels magnetic. Why? Because in childhood, many avoidants learned that their needs were invisible. When they reached for comfort, they weren't met with warmth, they were met with a blank face or emotional absence. So later in life, when a partner shows indifference, it mirrors that old wound perfectly. Their nervous system whispers, "This is how love has always felt." And this is where addiction begins. The avoidant doesn't see indifference as rejection, they see it as a challenge. If I can get through to this person, if I can make them care, then maybe I'll finally prove I am worthy of love. It becomes a mission to melt the ice, to win approval from someone who offers none. The cruel paradox is that indifference creates both pain and pull at the same time. Every cold response stings, but every tiny moment of warmth, no matter how small, feels like a victory. This unpredictable cycle wires the avoidant deeper into the relationship, chasing the rare crumbs of validation. Psychologically, indifference destabilizes them. Instead of feeling free to be themselves, they feel trapped in proving themselves. Instead of finding peace, they become addicted to the pursuit of care that never fully arrives. For the avoidant, indifference doesn't feel like a lack of love, it feels like the only love they've ever known. That's why they often mistake emotional absence for emotional safety, because their body learned long ago that closeness equals pain, but distance and detachment equals survival. Have you ever experienced this in your own life? Did someone's indifference make you feel invisible, yet at the same time strangely more attached to them? Inconsistency. If silence confuses the avoidant and indifference hooks them, inconsistency keeps them trapped in an endless loop. Inconsistency is when a partner swings between closeness and distance, warm one moment, cold the next. They might shower affection for a day, then suddenly withdraw the next. This push and pull dynamic is one of the strongest triggers for avoidance, because it mirrors the exact instability they grew up with. For an avoidant child, love often felt unpredictable. Sometimes their caregiver responded with attention, other times with absence. That nervous system wiring taught them, "I can't count on love being steady. It comes and goes, and I have to work for it." So in adulthood, when a partner behaves inconsistently, the avoidant doesn't run away. They lean in harder, chasing the moments of warmth like a lifeline. This unpredictability creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's the same psychological principle that makes gambling addictive. You don't win every time, but the chance that you might win keeps you playing. For avoidance, every rare moment of closeness feels like hitting the jackpot, and that reward, no matter how inconsistent, makes them stay, even if most of the time they feel ignored or unimportant. The danger of inconsistency is that it blurs reality. Avoidants start to magnify small gestures of care, convincing themselves, "See, they do love me." But in truth, those gestures are scattered crumbs, not a steady meal. Still, because their body equates unpredictability with love, they cling to it. Inconsistency doesn't just trigger avoidance, it conditions them. It rewires their brain to believe that love is supposed to be unstable, and so rather than seeking peace, they keep investing in chaos. The tragedy is that inconsistency doesn't make them feel loved, it makes them feel addicted. And as long as they confuse inconsistency with intimacy, they'll continue chasing someone who never offers the stability they actually need. Have you ever felt caught in this cycle, pulled closer by someone who was warm one moment and distant the next? Did that unpredictability make you hold on tighter, instead of walking away? Dismissiveness may sound subtle, but for an avoidant it cuts deeply. This is when a partner downplays, minimizes, or outright dismisses their emotions, needs, or experiences. Phrases like, "You're overreacting," "It's not a big deal," or even a cold shrug can feel like a quiet knife to the avoidant's heart. Why does this hit so hard? Because avoidants grew up learning that their feelings weren't safe to express. As children, when they reached out with emotion, crying, asking for comfort, or trying to connect, those needs were often dismissed or ignored. Over time, they adapted by shutting down, telling themselves, "If I need less, I'll hurt less." So in adulthood, when a partner repeats this dismissive pattern, it doesn't feel new, it feels hauntingly familiar. For the avoidant, dismissiveness sends the message, "Your feelings don't matter, your needs are too much." And instead of walking away, they often internalize it, thinking, "Maybe they're right, maybe I am asking for too much." This self-doubt traps them, making them work even harder to prove their worth in the relationship. What makes dismissiveness addictive is the hope underneath it. If the avoidant can somehow win validation from someone who repeatedly minimizes them, it feels like rewriting their entire childhood script. It becomes less about love and more about healing a wound that has been open for years. They think, "If I can finally get this person to see me, maybe it means I was never too much after all." The cruel twist is that dismissiveness doesn't heal, it reinforces the wound. It keeps avoidants in a cycle where they suppress their true selves, afraid that being authentic will only get them punished or ignored. And the more they silence their emotions, the more bonded they feel to the partner who doesn't truly accept them. For avoidants, dismissiveness is not just invalidation, it's confirmation of the deepest fear they carry. If I show who I really am, I won't be loved. And that makes the dismissive partner dangerously magnetic. Have you ever been in a situation where your feelings were brushed off or made to feel unimportant? Did that dismissal make you question yourself, yet somehow pull you even closer to the one who minimized you? We've talked about 4 qualities: silence, indifference, inconsistency, and dismissiveness. These are the very behaviors that often trigger avoidance and trap them in a strange cycle of addiction. But there's another angle here, and that is wisdom. If we can recognize these qualities and learn to shift or handle them in a healthier way, we can strengthen our bond with an avoidant instead of weakening it. For example, turning silence into open communication, transforming indifference into small gestures of care, replacing inconsistency with steady presence, and responding to dismissiveness with acceptance and validation. When an avoidant begins to see that the very patterns that once caused them pain are now being healed in a new way, their nervous system experiences peace for the first time. Those defensive walls that always protected them slowly start to open into doors. That is the moment when a relationship can become truly deep and lasting, because avoidants are not just wounded, they are profoundly loyal and capable of deep love. Once they feel safe, their bond is not temporary, it lasts for life. So this is not just about identifying triggers, it's about understanding how, through healing, we can transform those old wounds into the foundation of a stronger, more enduring love with an avoidant.